Welcome to episode 11 of the Chi-Town Shoot Wrestling Podcast. I'm Marcin, and joining me in the squared circle tonight are Chris and David. We're coming at you from the heart of the wrestling world, Chicago, Illinois, bringing you the latest news, hottest takes, and all things WWE and AEW. Don't forget, we want to hear from you. Send us your thoughts, your questions, your wildest predictions to chitownshootpodcast@gmail.com. We'll tackle your comments in the Chi-Town Shoot mailbag. Without further ado, let's jump in. How's everyone doing today? We're talking about Sexyy Red, and that's our upcoming segment, but I'm going to say that for later.
Oh, yeah.
What's new with everybody? Chris, I know you just asked me about Crash Bandicoot, and you wanted to borrow the Insane Trilogy. Did you just finish the first level? How far are you in that game right now?
I've cleared, I've just beat Papu Papu and
Damn.
Hog Wild. I think that's the one I just finished before I jumped on.
Were you able to get, all the
Bloodlines?
Yeah, Papu Papu coming out.
He's in Bloodline 3.0.
Yeah, no, I'm missing gems because I'm, missing boxes in, some levels, so... You said something about...
crystals, they didn't start until Wrath of Cortex, right? In the second one? Purple ones?
The crystals, yeah.
No.
But the gems are from OG.
Do you remember, did we get it at Toys R Us? It was Crash and Coco, and it was the purple crystal with the box. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, man. It was wasn't it one of those images that you can
3.
move?
What?
Images? The cover was those images. If you looked a certain way, it would be a different image.
Crash 3 was, but the actual toys, I think we got Toys R Us or something.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Or KB Toys. Do you remember? I think it was KB Toys, and we also got at KB Toys Mortal Kombat action figures. We got Jax, and I think that's it, right? Jax.
Just Jack.
We just got Jax for some reason. I have no idea why, but
yeah,
that was cool. But yeah, so you're basically off the first island, right?
Almost, because then I have to record this damn podcast. So
yeah, you had to jump on this before you.
I was one more minute.
What made you want to get into Crash Bandicoot again? Was it my Tomba announcement? You're like, oh, I want to go back to PlayStation 1 platformers?
Yeah, pretty much. Nailed it.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But honestly, did you play Crash 4? Or no?
Yeah, I don't even think I beat it, to be honest.
The perfectionist in me won't allow me to enjoy it.
Yeah, you're like, you know what? I beat it, but there's some boxes and crystals missing.
I'll play it, and then I'll miss a box, and then I'll be like, oh, I gotta go back.
Oh my god! Me thinking back to Crash 4, which is actually a really good game. I thought it was a great follow up. I mean, they just omitted everything in between. What's the third one called? Warped. Thank you. Yeah. Because there was PS2 versions, and then the IP was switched to Activision. They had Twinsanity that I remember renting from Blockbuster, and then we had all these other ones in between. And they basically said it's basically 1, 2, 3, and now we're at Crash 4. And they did a really great job at it. But yeah, like you said, it's very difficult. For one, near the end there's this one level where I'm just they perfected the timing of the boxes and stuff, but they made this one level that is so freaking difficult. I don't know how many times you remember that Lisa gif where I think she was playing Crash Bandicoot or something on PS1 when she was sick, and she was going
Ash Dingo.
Yes. That was basically me in Crash 4. I was I don't know how many times I had to restart this shit, but it was beyond frustrating. But honestly, really enjoyable. And like you, David, I don't think I finished that shit, but I was for my peace, for my personal self, I was you know what? I finished the game. The game said the end, and that's all that counts for me in this instance. Because if I was 100% completionist and everything, I probably never beat a single goddamn game in my life, except for maybe Shenmue 1 and 2.
Shenmue?
Walking simulator.
Yeah. Yeah. Shenmue 8 walking simulator.
Nah, I'm going into this run of the games is just trying to complete everything. So that's why I'm like, I went back every single time I beat the level to just do the time attack because you get the relic with the time attack now.
Yeah, but I feel like you're gonna get tired by like Wrath of Cortex because that shit's hard as hell. There's certain levels I'm like, you know what? I don't need this one.
So far, so good.
Hard. But I'm surprised they had like an HDR update. I guess I didn't play it for a while. I mean, since when did it get released? Like what, 2016, 17 or something like that?
I mean, it's PS4 Pro enabled, so that meant that HDR and all that extra shit's on PS5. It was just default.
Right. But those are really fun. Like, I really did appreciate that they remastered Crash, they remastered Spyro. Like, those are like core childhood memories. And then we're getting Gex and Tomba this year. I'm super excited. I'm pretty sure Jersey Devil's getting a remaster too. Yeah. Yeah. And like, me and my brother only played Jersey Devil on the demo disc. I think it was on the same disc as Tekken 3. And it was like Kagero Deception 2. Do you remember that, Chris? Kagero Deception 2? Like that weird trap game with like the girl with the skirt.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Like, I don't even know how to play this game.
Yeah, exactly.
Turn this shit off.
Idea. Yeah, exactly. So, so Limited Run Games is currently doing the Tomba Special Edition, which comes out on August 1st. And they are
Is it a reskin? Is it a remaster, or is it just like a complete port?
So it's a remaster. So it's basically the same game. So there might be, it's not confirmed, but there might be, according to the creator who I'm pretty sure did Mega Man. Did he do Mega Man? He did Ghosts and Goblins, and there was another well-known Resident Evil. He was working on that, like in that decade, in that time period. He said he basically made like so many quests that this CD could only fit so many. So there was maybe an assumption that he might have included like extra quests within the game. But so far confirmed, they're doing a remastered soundtrack. So like the music within the game is like remastered. So you'll have the choice between the original and a completely new revamped version.
Nice.
HD upgrade. And they also have a save anywhere. I think I'm going to stick to like you have to go up to a sign or whatever to save, but you can basically save anywhere you want. And if you're in a challenge, you could also rewind the mission or the specific puzzle or whatever you want to call it. So that's pretty cool. Like just kind of like quality of life upgrades for that one. And they're gonna release like a physical version because Limited Run Games always does like this super big like physical thing, but you also get like art books and like plushies and that kind of stuff. And I feel like when they announce it, I might do it because this is kind of like, again, like a Shenmue 3 type of thing. Because like Tomba as a kid was like my jam. Tomba 1 and 2 was my jam. So I hope like this one's successful enough where I could get Tomba 2. And maybe
Tomba 3.
Give me a sequel. Yeah, give me a Tomba 3. That'd be awesome. So
throw Blasto in the mix.
Yeah. So I'm excited for that. So yeah, Gex 3 trilogy.
I didn't realize they were doing Gex too. Is it the same company?
Yeah, Limited Run is doing both Gex and Tomba. I think Gex trilogy is also coming out this year. They just didn't announce that one yet.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so that should be exciting. I'll definitely get both of those. Because that's just like, it's just like things that are like in my childhood that I didn't quite itch yet. You know what I mean? Like I just got, like, I feel like they're basically going down my childhood memory. Like I got Monster Rancher recently. I actually beat that. I beat the Monster Rancher 2 game. Went all the way through the tournaments, the Elite Four, whatever you want to call it, like their version of it, or Raise the Monsters, all that kind of stuff. I actually beat the game, so it feels like a lifetime achievement for me.
Bring on Duke Nukem, Land of the Babes.
Yeah. What about you, David? I kept talking about, or we got talking about furries and platformers. What's new with you?
Nothing, dude.
Nothing.
Gym. This is a disciplined man that goes to the gym. He says, "Wake up."
You know what? Can I just say, David?
Gym.
When I looked at that picture, you got some guns, my friend.
Oh, dude, just listening to Chris, dog. Just listening to Chris, bro.
Be careful. You need a permit for that shit.
whatever it is you're doing, it's working. Because
Thanks,
I
dog.
was like, whoa. When I saw
Consistent, hard training.
Yeah, good job on that. So keep going, man. Whatever you're doing is working.
He's ready for freelance, dog. Let's go.
Yeah, let's
100
go.
times gravity, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
One finger push up.
Uh,
Yeah, in the what's that chamber called in Dragon Ball Z?
the hyperbolic.
Hyperbolic chamber. Is it
Time chamber.
Time
hyperbolic?
chamber.
Yeah,
Are you
exactly.
talking about Capsule Corp's gravity room?
Well, whatever it is when he was like basically training to face, I think it was the androids, right? Was it the androids?
Yeah, then it's the hyperbolic time chamber.
Yeah, the hyperbolic time chamber. Oh, actually, you know what? Now, okay, my brain is on a side, but didn't they announce like a Budokai remaster or
Yes.
remake or something?
Yeah, sparking zero or something.
Tenkaichi 3.
Mhm.
No, I think it was like just Budokai.
Well, no, they're calling it Sparking Zero or something like that.
What?
But
They changed the name?
But that's the Japanese name, I think. That's what they call it in Japan. But it's
coming out this year?
a remake. I don't know. I feel like they could have definitely. I don't know. I feel like those graphics could be a little tighter. To be honest, it still looks a little like jagged. They should have just
do
had
they have
arc system
screenshots?
do
Is
it.
this a remaster of the first one?
Well, no,
I
the
think
third.
It's new. No, it's new because they got Zamasu and all of them.
True. I mean, I think it's within the same. It's like the same like style of game. It's like an arena fighter.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
Not
But you know what?
fighters.
That sounds like I should just play Fighters Z because I didn't really touch
Fighters
Fighter
Z, you boomer.
What is it called? Fighters?
It's just fighters, dude. Like, well, the Z is there, but it's like, being cheeky. Fighters.
Oh, see, I thought like Dragon Ball Z, Fighter Z.
See, like that game, like if they had the animation of that game and then they threw it into like an arena fighter, because it just looks better. It just looks more like it was like peeled out of the show or whatever. Whereas this game, like every time they do 3D Dragon Ball, it looks more or less the same. They could have done like smooth out the edges, make it look more anime.
When that came out in 2002, Budokai, the original, that shit was lit when we were playing that.
Oh yeah,
like that looked awesome.
That was like my way to like understand Dragon Ball without having cable. Like just playing through Budokai, and
How did we even get into Dragon Ball Z when we didn't have cable? I don't even know.
The kids on the schoolyard. Damn,
That's
Dragon
true.
Ball's so
Actually,
cool.
I feel like that's what it was. It was like those Game Boy Advance games.
Oh yeah, Legacy of
Oscar
Goku
in the playground.
Legacy of Goku, baby.
Yeah, Legacy of Goku on Game Boy Advance.
I got into Dragon Ball because of Zach.
Oh yeah.
And he watched Dragon Ball.
Zach discovered it, and then he wouldn't stop talking about it.
Just kept going.
It was infectious.
Yeah, dude.
It's intriguing.
And then he got the first Budokai, and then.
Oh, you know what? When Blockbuster was still a thing, and they had VHS tapes, I think we got like or rented. It was like some episode from the Namek Saga or some shit, and it's like 2 episodes or some shit.
Oh, we got that movie with Goku, and like they showed his penis and everything. We were like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" Well, it was like during like the
It was a Tree of Might.
yeah, Tree of Might. There you go. Yeah, it was during the Raditz like kind of era, right?
Turles. Earl? Some shit. Goku lookalike motherfucker.
Something.
Raditz. Yeah, well.
Is it something they've deemed non-canon?
Yeah, it's non-canon.
What? Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I definitely remember like that was like early stages and stuff, and we were playing the game. Then we started like watching stuff online, and then eventually it was like DVDs and Blu-rays of the show. And we started watching.
Oh yeah, brother.
But yeah, I guess that's enough about people and red objects. Speaking of red, this is my segue.
Red objects. The fruit.
Let's talk. Like red aliens
might
in
fruit?
Dragon Ball Z. Sure. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's get into our first news segment, and that is celebrities, but more specifically, the recent appearance of Sexy Red in NXT. And she made her appearance on May 28th. And honestly, I saw the clips because I didn't watch it live, but I saw like all the clips with Sexy Red and stuff. First of all, congratulations to the women in NXT for getting a mid-tier championship. I think that's awesome and well deserved. And again, I feel like that's kind of like a sign of things to come for the main roster, because I know in the NXT realm you have a mid-tier championship, but at that point, if Shawn Michaels decides that they have a mid-tier championship, I don't see why Triple H wouldn't be also thinking the same thing, or they didn't already have in plan a mid-tier title for the women on the main roster for Raw and SmackDown. Now, I'm thinking, I don't know how they could do this, and I've seen some people debate like, oh, on one roster they'll have the tag titles for the women, and then on the other roster they'll have the mid-tier title. So basically you'll have like a set on each, and basically whoever's the champion of those two will just kind of like go between, and then whatever they decide is a rivalry will be, that's what it is. What do you guys think about that? Do you feel like it should be two sets of tag titles and two sets of mid-tier titles, or how do you guys view like a potential mid-tier women's championship on the main roster? How do you feel about that?
I think each show could get one if the guys have one.
Right.
Tag team, I don't know.
Yes.
Tag team, I feel, can get hairy just because it's just like, okay, well, do we have enough people
It's a lot of
to make these? Yeah, there's just a lot of stuff to just like moving pieces. Who's got to be where? Because you're taking two people or four potentially to feud, and then you have all these singles matches and shit. So I don't know.
Right. I mean, like for me personally, I also agree with that. I mean, and that's why I was also hesitant to split the tag titles for the men's, because like they have their sets of tag teams, but I mean, like I feel like that's still only like four, maybe five. And I mean, how many times are you going to be feuding with the same people, year round throughout the year? You know what I mean? I guess you can like take like those five tag teams and then like extend the rivalry, kind of go like an on and off, like, okay, I'm done with you and then I'm going back with you, and that'll last the year. But in terms of longevity for both sides of the brand, I don't know if you have enough tag teams for that. And that's why I was having an issue with them splitting the tag titles for the men initially. So for me personally, when it comes to the women's tag titles, I think I would leave them as is. Because again, like women's tag teams, like how many can you name, on both of your hands that are, women's tag teams that are viable, and they weren't just thrown together like, okay, you were just happened to be together, like kind of like, Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. Although, like, now that they've been there long enough, it feels like an established team, kind of.
I
Like,
think
sometimes
they
it feels like singles wrestler and manager, and sometimes they're a tag team, you know what I mean? So, with that, I would just leave by itself. I feel like for the women's mid-tier titles, I think for mid-tier titles like a United States and an IC, I feel like you could do two. I feel like you could do one for one brand, one for the other, because there is like for singles, like everyone can technically be a singles wrestler on both Raw and SmackDown for the women's roster, and their roster is very deep, you know.
Yeah.
So I feel like they could like announce. I mean, I wouldn't even know what you'd call it. Maybe you could just call it the women's IC in United States, because I don't know what else you'd call it. If NXT already
European
has North
Championship.
American. But what does that mean, though, if a majority of
EBS,
your shows
USA,
in the United States, you know?
the TV champ and the YouTube champ.
I mean, I guess you could do TV champ, like the Netflix champion, the
God.
Netflix champion. So I just like, for me personally, I still feel like a TV, like the name of a channel belt sounds weird personally, like
It does.
TBS, TNT, whatever it is. Like at least with ECW, it was just called TV title, right?
Yeah. Same
So
with WCW.
Like just call it like TBS. I don't know. It just feels so bizarre. Like it kind of sucks you out from the competition and WWE portion, and you're like, oh, you're part of a channel. You're a champion of a channel, which it just seems weird from a marketing standpoint, but also just from I don't know a perception standpoint. So I'm not a fan of like a channel name championship, but
They need to make like a complete weirdo the TNT champ, just like
yeah,
somebody that TNT's like, oh, can we get this off him?
yeah.
That'd be
But
hilarious.
But yeah, I mean, like I made this entire side tangent about like mid-tier titles, but let's go back to the what happened this past NXT, or at least on the May 28th episode of NXT with Sexy Red showing up, shaking her ass, hands on your knees, get it sexy, and basically showing off the North American Championship and also announcing that she is the host of NXT Battleground. Throughout the show, obviously Booker T was super excited about Sexy Red's presence, and the commentator was on his podcast, he was making jokes about him making sure he took his blood pressure medication because maybe his heart rate is going too up from from her performance on the show.
He just took that blue
And
chew.
yeah, exactly. Speaking of, brought to you by Blue Chew. Actually, we're not brought to you by Blue Chew, but yeah. So she is a fan of wrestling.
Driving the rocket to it, man.
You don't know how many wrestling podcasts I've seen that they have Blue Chew and how many variations of penis related jokes they had, or
It's inevitable.
things to sell. Blue Pill.
Thanos, I'm inevitable.
So I mean, like Sexy Red showed up, like she got a big pop from the NXT crowd. I know she was getting flack. I mean, she gets flack as a rapper in general. Like people give her crap, and also, I mean, this is anytime I feel like a celebrity shows up, there will always be people who are complaining about this person showing up. And again, I feel like it's warranted depending on the person who shows up because. And this is what I kind of want to dive into more with this specific segment is celebrities in wrestling. Because you could have people like Sexy Red, who is a fan of wrestling, and she's super into it. Like you saw her, if you watched the NXT episode, she was super into it. She was doing her thing. Yeah. And, she announced the belt. She was really good with like timing. And when it came to like interacting with wrestlers, it wasn't like sloppy or stupid. Like she understood what she had to do there. And it's going to be interesting to see her at Battleground. But she also is a fan of Trick Williams. I think that's kind of where it sparked the interest. And she also did a cameo with Shawn Michaels on X, and they were singing Shawn Michaels' theme song. I don't know if it was in a car or whatever they were in, but it was cute. Like some people say it's cringy or whatever, but I thought it was cute. Like it was great.
We were
So
about to see 97, Sean.
yeah, yeah, you are. Yeah, you're about to be Shawn Michaels 1997 in that specific segment on X, but
Busting out the
honestly,
perks.
it's really cool. And I'm also of the mindset of like if you could get a big celebrity that could get like more eyeballs on your product, more power to you, especially since you're coming to CW in the fall and you have celebrities like this person who actually likes the product. Chris, who is the person when they were doing the like the celebrity GMs and stuff, and he called it Super Slam? Do you remember what I'm talking about? He was with the guy from oh god damn. Like this is I'm drawing a blank.
Might be
Super
a Google
bad.
moment.
He was in Super Bad.
McLovin? No.
Not
Or Jonah Hill? No.
No, he was with the Asian actor. I forgot his name.
God, I forgot his name.
But he was there
Mr. Kim?
with
Oh,
huh?
I don't know.
Did you say Mr. Kim?
Yeah.
I honestly don't remember. So, but he was with that other actor, and he was clearly there just because he had a contract obligation, and he called SummerSlam Super Slam
I mean,
on the microphone.
there were so many moments like that though during that time period. Like that was like I feel that was like 5 years of just bullshit like that every time. Guest
Well,
appearance.
it was like a year and a half. It felt like 5 years, but
It
it was
felt
like
like
a year and a
forever.
half. It was like first it was McMahon's $1 Million Mania, and that was like 2007. And given like this is when me and Chris started getting back into wrestling, so it was like 2006. DX reunion, Radar Superstar, and he had the feud with John Cena, and you had all these kind of things, and then you had, the CM Punk Championship, you had the Benoit Murder Homicide, you had, I mean, you had like so many things in between, right? And then right after that, you had Vince McMahon exploding in his limousine, and then right after that, you had Umaga, and then you had McMahon's $1 Million Mania, and then 2008, 9, you had the celebrity GMs basically.
Pee Wee
So
Herman.
you had the anonymous general manager. It might have been like even 2010 or 2011. Jesus. But you had the anonymous general manager, and then you had like the celebrity GMs, and you had Ozzy Osbourne. You had Bob Barker, which was okay. Bob Barker was actually pretty good because he had this whole thing with Chris Jericho, and they were wearing like the Best Buy designed like labels, like the name tags that they put on Price is Right.
Yeah.
And he was talking about like how he would like bend him over his knee and smack him, but he as like an 80-year-old man. Like that was actually funny. So like that kind of stuff is funny. Like Betty White was funny. Like she went out on the microphone. She's like, "I'm gonna kick your ass" or whatever. Like that was funny. Like I wouldn't, as a concept, do it myself, like the whole celebrity thing, but you had people who were genuine, like either into it and they weren't fans of wrestling, or they were super fans of wrestling and they understood the assignment. But there were people who, did not care. They were just kind of there because it was an obligation based
When did
on the
they
manager.
when did they start doing the Hall of Fame itself? When did they start doing that?
I mean, it was on and off. So initially, it started in like 1992 or three, in the early 90s. I'm pretty sure they inducted like Andre the Giant. He was like one of the first ones who was inducted, and then they also did it like it was like early 90s, mid 90s, and then there was like a big gap in between, and then they brought it back in like the mid 2000s because I know like Hulk Hogan got inducted in those early iterations, and
Drew Carey, baby.
and
Boo.
oh my God, what's his name? Jesus Christ. Well, there were a bunch of people that were inducted early, so it was basically like early 90s break, 2000s, late 2000s, and then they just kept going since then. Like Bret Hart was 2006, Roddy Piper was like 2005 or 4. And that was also around like when Hulk Hogan was inducted. So basically around that time they brought it back, and then they kept doing it since then. So maybe they were like, oh, we don't have enough legends or people to induct, so they had to wait like a decade or so to bring more people on. But what do you guys feel like, because it isn't just specifically tied to the celebrity general manager era of the mid 2000s, because celebrities and like the mainstream media has been tied in with at least WWF since the 80s. That's how we got the whole rock and wrestling thing, right? We had the whole Cyndi Lauper, Muhammad Ali,
Mr. T.
Mr. T, exactly, like that whole thing. So how do you guys feel
Kid
about
Rock.
celebrities and wrestling, and how do you feel like that ties into wrestling? Do you feel like they have a place?
Yeah.
When is it
All
viable?
cameos. Andy
when
Kaufman was
Yeah,
Jerry
Andy
Lawler,
Kaufman. Yeah. You know what? That's
Like-
a great point. Andy Kaufman is another person that like just understood what wrestling was supposed to be, because that man took wrestling, and he is a character comedian, right? So when he became a wrestler, like he also like took it as like a character study, and he basically like just kind of turned himself into this person, and he ran with it. Like he understood what wrestling was, and that was fascinating. I mean, this was obviously behind our years, but I watched it. I mean, it was amazing, like what he did with Jerry Lawler, that whole feud. So
Yeah, dog. I played Legends of Wrestling as a kid. That's how I knew about him.
yeah,
That didn't happen
did you
on
watch
WWE.
the Jim Carrey biopic of him with Andy Kaufman? I think it was called like Moon Man or something. I don't remember, but I feel like I have to rewatch that because as a kid
Yeah.
I didn't understand it. I just like, oh, Jim Carrey's from The Mask.
This isn't
I
funny.
know. I know that like
Yeah.
Jim like around that time if you met Jim Carrey, he's one of those actors that has to like live the whole role.
A method
So like
actor.
yeah, so they had to like like people he'd be like, "Oh, I met Jim Carrey." And then he'd be like, "No, I'm Andy Kaufman."
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess like I just went on this whole huge tangent, but like, give me just your thoughts of like whatever I just said in terms of like celebrities in wrestling. Like, how do you feel? What is their place in wrestling? Like Snooki, like those
I
kinds of people.
I think cameos are necessary. I think sometimes they miss, but overall it's just like anything else. There's gonna be some good ones and there's gonna be some bad ones.
Who's your favorite celebrity cameo in wrestling? Like from anything, 90s, 80s, 2000s, pay-per-views, like just on a show, doesn't matter. Like what do you
Rodzilla,
like?
bro.
Rod, see, okay, see,
Rodzilla, bro.
WCW.
Yeah.
Like that gave them like huge fucking like views. Like the Bulls were at the top of their game. You
Fucker skipped
got Dennis
practice.
Rodman, and like in his like he would like talk about someone who was like queer coded or like he just didn't give a shit like how he dressed, what he
Fucking
looked like, and people were giving him shit like he would come in a skirt or whatever. Like he had like
crash
his
at
hair
the beach
dyed.
and then he showed up at the NBA finals.
Yeah. Apparently he had his dick pierced. I don't know where I heard that from,
Prince
but
Albert.
yeah, exactly. He got the Prince Albert, but yeah, that's a really good example. And for WCW, that was like a huge like they were riding the wave and the momentum, but that was like kind of like it kept them there in like 97, 98.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a really good one. What about your worst one? Like, which one did you hate the most, if you can think of one?
Drew Carey. Nah.
Drew Carey is cool. I don't know, the
Drew Carey in the Royal Rumble.
I missed all the years of the cringe ones. So
That's
like
true. There was like a very specific like focus like
missed
area of
those.
celebrities, but they were spread out through like a lot of WrestleMania. Like you had footballs. Was the Fridge guy on WrestleMania 11?
Oh, William
Um,
Perry. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I count that. I mean I have no opinion on him. I mean Mike Tyson, like that's a huge one, right? Mike
No.
Tyson, WrestleMania 14 with Shawn Michaels, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Yeah, like that was massive. You know. What about you, Chris? What about your favorite celebrity person who's ever showed up
Gotta
on
be
wrestling?
Arnold.
Arnold in
Arnold.
like 2000 and on SmackDown.
Yeah, like he just showed up.
What about you?
But I mean, like he's an actor that does action. So like when he punched Triple H or whatever, and he got on him, like it just looked like he was beating his ass because he can sell that shit. So that's probably my favorite because reasons.
What about
Because he's Arnold. Huh?
worst?
Worst?
Worst.
Pee Wee Herman? Nah. I mean, I feel like there was some weird like CW star or something that was just trying to promote their show and it was just all shitty. I don't know. So, some motherfucker like that. Unnamed actor number 5 or like irrelevant actor.
I'm trying to find because my worst is God, it's that celebrity who says Super Slam, and I forgot what his name is, and that's the annoying
Just
part.
find the
because
movie.
yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out what the movie was. Um,
Google,
Hangover?
who was that asshole that said Super Slam?
I wish we had a producer. It was like on Joe Rogan. What's his name?
Uh
He's like Jimmy or something. Uh, all right, hold on. Best, worst. So okay, so first of all, I'm gonna give you best. So Walter Payton, actually, if you guys remember in SummerSlam '94, that was a good one. Okay, this is one that I forgot about, but Insane Clown Posse in SummerSlam 1998, like that was kind
Hell
of
yeah.
crazy.
I mean, they're
And that
wrestlers,
kind of
aren't
like
they?
that was kind of the vibe, right? You know?
Uh,
And like Jesse Ventura showed up as like guest appearances, but I wouldn't count him as like a celebrity. Jon Stewart, I actually thought did really good because he also understood the assignment and it felt like he enjoyed himself.
oh, dude, he
Um,
called Cena beating Flair's record. Fucking dick.
let's
That was cool.
see. Man, why don't they have it on here? This is so annoying. But those are some of like the best ones. Um, God, I forgot what his name was, but whatever the guy was with the guy from Superbad, that was one of my worst because like SummerSlam has been around for almost 30 years at that point when he was talking about it, and when he said that, I'm like, bro, like that is the bare minimum when you get on this show is knowing the freaking show that you're supposed to promote. Like it's not that hard.
Like Krusty the Clown doing a role in a movie or something. He's like, what am I doing?
Yeah, exactly. I
Ah.
mean, like especially like that. It's like someone messing up WrestleMania. You know, like SummerSlam is like WrestleMania for wrestling.
Hulk Hogan
So
said Silverdome, so
He just
yeah,
forgot where he was at.
yeah, exactly.
you
Like
forgot what year it
with
was.
that, yeah, with that, I'm going to give him a break because like wrestlers go into hundreds and hundreds of stadiums and arenas. Like they don't know
Andre's
their
music
left
was
hand from the
about to
right
hit.
hand sometimes because they're consistently on the road. So I'll give him a break. But like a consistent pay-per-view in a wrestling promotion like WWF or E, SummerSlam is like, come on. Like I'll understand if you're like, oh, you don't remember Great Balls of Fire. You're like, I'll give you a pass if you don't remember that one because that
Friday
would have
Night
been like
Dynamite.
later. Yeah, exactly. Or Friday Night Dynamite. You don't know that one, but
Come on, Christopher Daniels.
you know what?
Yeah.
Logan Paul, in terms of recent memories, Logan Paul was initially a celebrity person. Floyd Mayweather is actually another good one that I just
Knock the
remembered.
fuck out of Big Show.
In
Boom.
24. He actually broke his fucking nose. He actually broke his nose. So like Floyd Mayweather is a really good one, and Logan Paul is the most recent example who actually just became a regular roster member, which is amazing. And again, I know he's an asshole and all that kind of stuff, but I can't deny that he's just really good at the whole thing. The promos, the wrestling, how he carries himself, what he does on social media. Like he was basically born to be like a WWE or just a pro wrestler, you know? So
Sports entertainer.
yeah, a sports entertainer. I'll give it to Logan Paul, but yeah, but you know, just kind of going back to Sexy Red, I have no issue with her doing it, especially like again based on her fandom and you know what she's been what she talks about how she talks about wrestling in her social media and stuff, and it'll be interesting to see Battleground, which is I think is like a week or two from this as of this recording.
Next
I'll
week.
Yeah, next week, yeah, I'll definitely watch that just to see what's gonna happen with that. That'd be kind of funny if they also turn her into like a, a roster member.
That'd be
I
crazy.
could see that. But yeah, but that's it with that segment. Let's jump into some AEW news. So I think folks may have noticed that the Blackpool Combat Club has been kind of MIA on AEW television as of recently. So in a recent interview, Brian Danielson said that the Blackpool Combat Clubs, well, they have a book club apparently, and it basically fell apart in part due to John Moxley in Japan for NJPW, and Wheeler Yuta has had an injury. So there's a number of reasons why they're currently not in their strongest faction position right now. So Bryan Danielson provided an update on the club within the Blackpool Combat Club. He previously stated that the club has a book club, which is kind of funny, that helped him. Him, Wheeler Yuta, Moxley, and the founder of the group, William Regal, stay connected. He has now provided an update on the book club, telling Mr. Barrasso of Sports Illustrated in a recent interview that the current state of the club is up in the air as Jon Moxley is spending time more in Japan as the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, and Wheeler Yuta being injured. That has meant that they are not at as many AEW events. As for staying connected in other ways, Danielson has stated that he hates looking at his cell phone and is not a good texter. I mean, I feel I kind of got that vibe with this whole like vegan Earth persona
Dork.
in WWE. Yeah, dork. And so basically, he says, and I quote, "I don't know what the next book is going to be for the book club. It's kind of fallen apart since Mox won the IWGP Championship in New Japan. He hasn't been at a lot of AEW shows. Wheeler's been hurt, so he hasn't been at a lot of AEW shows, and I'm a horrible texter. I hate looking at my phone, so I'm really bad at responding to texts. The last 6 weeks, we haven't been as deep into it as we were." Danielson did note that Jon Moxley recently recommended a book to him, so the spirit of the club is still alive, at least. Fightful Select recently reported that Wheeler Yuta was dealing with concussion issues. At this time, a timetable for his return is not now. So, I know, David, you kind of mentioned like you didn't know that Wheeler Yuta was injured, or at least to that extent.
Yeah,
Why he
well,
was
I
off
knew
the shelf.
Yeah, like I figured something happened, but then like they never did anything. With his belt because he's the Ring of Honor Peer Champion.
And he's still the champion, right? They didn't
Huh.
vacate it.
Yeah, like Curtis Axel hasn't lost in the Royal Rumble.
Right. Exactly. And there were plenty of people who have been injured. Adam Copeland, I believe he vacated his
about to
title,
get fined.
right? When he broke his leg.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for one, that's kind of interesting how they determine who gets vacated and who doesn't get vacated. But I guess that's a whole nother segment. But I mean, the Blackpool Combat Club as it is right now, and we think about where Daniel Bryan is right now, I feel like he's kind of in limbo when it comes to feuds, and we know that he's talked about retirement on the horizon within the next year or two, although he has mentioned that you never say never, and he doesn't want to put a date on it because, I mean, again, I feel like he looked at Sting and he's like, yeah, that could be me. And Wheeler Yuta being injured and he's having concussion issues. I mean, like, where do you guys see the Blackpool Combat Club in AEW fitting right now? Or at least, like, because currently Daniel Bryan is doing his thing, and Jon Moxley is currently... So he mentioned that he's more in Japan, but Jon Moxley has been on AEW television. He just has the NJPW championship, right? Like, he hasn't missed that many televised pay-per-views and shows.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't believe that for a second, but they're not the only three in Blackpool Combat Club, are they? Weren't there other people?
Claudio.
No. Claudio.
Right, exactly.
Brian.
So where's
Mox.
so isn't Claudio Castagnoli still on the roster?
Yeah.
He's
But I
still
guess
doing stuff.
maybe they just haven't figured out that they should just make them a tag team or something.
So okay, so William Regal was originally kind of like their...
Yeah. And wouldn't that be tampering? Because Regal has a high job.
Right. So who's their kind of like leader now since Regal's gone?
I guess it'd be Moxley, wouldn't it?
Mox.
Yeah, but it hasn't been like defined, right, on television. They haven't really addressed it.
No, I mean Mox and Danielson have had matches, but other than that,
Right,
no.
but besides that, like, has there been like from a story perspective, like a not a microscope, but yeah, kind of more of like okay, we're talking about Blackpool Combat Club as a group. What are we doing? Like, what's next? Have they addressed that since they've had these issues? No. They like that's again why I have sometimes issues with Tony Khan's booking. But so what do you guys think about, Blackpool Combat Club um and its history and its legacy, and where do you feel like it goes from here, given the current situation with Daniel Bryan kind of still being there, and he's involved in things like, Team AEW versus the Elite, and you have Wheeler Yuta out with a concussion, and you have Jon Moxley basically doing side quests in Japan. Like, how do you feel about the Blackpool Combat Club now, up to now, as a faction?
I don't think they're one of those factions that have to be together all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
I think.
yeah, like I guess that's the easiest way to put it. Like, I mean, other than like on camera, like pulling up together every once in a while, like I guess that's cool. But like, I feel like they're one of those groups that could just like do their own thing, and it's more of like a badge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
the
they don't have to
glam
be.
tag.
They don't have to be in story at all times. I think that's where
Yeah.
you're getting confused. Why they're still a group, or if they're still not a group, or whatever. Because I mean, they have so many big segments now that they're still a thing, but they're just not on TV. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, like for me, like the way that the thing that I do enjoy, what about WWE, is when you're in a faction, the the feuds, like you are addressed and acknowledged that you're in a faction or you're part of a faction. Like if you're Legado del Fantasma or if you're LWO, like you're in a group, and when they talk about you or when you're in an interview, you address or acknowledge like people in your team, or you acknowledge that you're part of a team. You know what I mean? Like when they're doing these stories, that common thread of the faction is woven through all of their stories. If you're on SmackDown or Raw, with Blackpool Combat Club, and again, like it also just comes to like certain storytelling things within AEW, and this is my issue sometimes because you guys know when there's like a roster member or someone like, oh, I haven't seen this person like 6 months, and then they just show up and they have like a couple of matches and they're in a feud or something, and then they drop off again. And then they come back up in like 3 or 4 months. And there's like no acknowledgement, or like there isn't like that story thing. You know what I mean? Like why
Yeah.
that's why, like for me, like when I see like I don't know, Brian Keith or somebody like that, or whatever. Like seeing somebody that has like is on the roster and they have like a string of matches and then a feud and then they drop off, and there's like no acknowledgement of it. Like that's my issue with it. Sometimes there's like no acknowledgement of them leaving or coming back or whatever.
Yeah.
Like why should I invest in these people when they could just easily drop off at the drop of a dime? You know what I mean? Like that's my frustration with some of these people on AEW. And I feel like at least with WWE, when it comes to storytelling, and again, I feel like that, like when I try to take a step back from like what do I like about pro wrestling? What makes me invested in pro wrestling? Why do I keep coming back to it and all that kind of stuff? It is the storytelling. You could have a great, wonderful match and all that kind of stuff, but if it's insulated and within a vacuum, and once that match is done, nothing else is connected to it, I don't care as much. You know what I mean? Like if Chris told me like, hey, we have an AEW pay-per-view, I know it's gonna be a banger, but I have no inclination to tune into Dynamite or Collision because the pay per view might not necessarily tie into Dynamite or Collision, because sometimes those people just kind of fuck off and they're just gone or whatever. You know what I mean? So
Well, if you
it's kind
watched
of
it, you would keep up with the storylines, now wouldn't you?
Yes, and again, I watched the YouTube clips, but you have to be honest with me here and say like there has been that issue in the past, and still right
That's true,
now,
but I feel like there have been strides made to make storylines kind of more apparent, and that there's continuation, or they'll acknowledge something that might have happened even a couple of years ago. Like they do the AEW timeline stuff, and I'm guessing that's kind of their way for you to kind of connect with the specific wrestler, even if it's like not some major storyline, but they'll like mention something they did in like another promotion or something like that. They kind of like, which is the story, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be like, you know, Kane's baby daddy having a baby or some shit like that, but like that, you know, here's their history as a pro wrestler, and this is what they've done in the past. So I think
and
it depends.
Yeah,
It depends on how you define what a wrestling storyline is. I think there's a lot of room there to we can poke and prod and pick apart like what makes a good storyline. But I would say that there is story there. It's just not. It might not be the flavor that you're looking for, if that makes sense.
I'll half agree with it because I still do think that there are certain things that they again, it comes down to like wrestlers that they try to like push, and then I feel like there's no follow through, even if they lose. It feels like, you know, here's a good example of like how what a good thing you can do. Like AJ Styles, for example, with Cody Rhodes, he had a match in Backlash, and they gave their whole like explanation about, you know, their two Georgia boys. They're, you know, they have that their background with each other. He wrestled his father. Like you already have like, you know, built-in story into that, and he lost, and that was it, right? And then it like, oh look, he just moved on to Logan Paul, and then on this past SmackDown, and this past SmackDown as of May or June 2nd, they went back to the AJ Styles feud. So they had because they knew like, oh, we have to have this show in Saudi Arabia, and now we're going back into this AJ Styles feud. And again, they pulled from, you know, the Mark Henry storyline of the retirement, which was like Academy Award stuff, but also honestly the AJ Styles thing, and also Cody Rhodes like looking like he was crying. Like I also kind of believe that he was gonna retire too.
Ah,
And
gotcha.
I
Gotcha,
know, I'm a
Waves.
fucking goober. I'm a goober when it comes to
Mark.
that. But yeah, I'm a Mark. Because I texted Dave, was like, hey, do you think like because like when I was like watching this, I'm like, oh, this seems for real. So I fell into it, even though like they used the same tactic like 13 years ago or whatever it was. But again, really well done. Like he was like, oh, you know, the GM was like, you have to get in the back of the line. You can't get your championship shot
There's the
again.
ranking
And
system.
yeah, exactly. He came back. He did his like speech about, you know, I want to be a phenomenal father. And then, you know, he did that whole attacked. He did the whole, you know, he did his finisher on the stairs. I thought he was gonna die on that shit. I'm like, why are you doing that? But again, like trying to tie it into it. Sometimes I just feel like with AEW, like right now, I don't understand. I mean, again, I guess based on storyline for Will Ospreay, he won, you know, the tournament or whatever to fight uh for the AEW, yes, for the AEW championship. But again, like I'm just trying to follow AEW's rules. You know what I mean? Like when it comes to rankings and when it comes to immediate shows like Forbidden Door, hasn't traditionally Forbidden Door been like AEW wrestlers and then like Japanese wrestlers like New Japan, All Japan? Like why is the top title just between two AEW wrestlers? You know what I mean? So
I feel like, well, here's what I think is the reasoning why they did that was because that adds the you don't know who's gonna win kind of element to it. Because if you have some kind of New Japan guy, you think the New Japan guy is gonna win an AEW like the big AEW title? Probably not.
I'll say yes, because like the example is John Moxley has the New Japan Championship. So that's like that gives you a reason to think that
Well, here's the reason why I think he wanted is to create is more like a marketing thing for Western audiences. So that was the agreement, I'm assuming. I don't think AEW wants to do the opposite in like the Japanese market or whatever. I don't believe that's something that they're necessarily interested in. I would imagine. I mean, like the cross promotion stuff is the partnership or what they're getting out of it, but I don't think a New Japan star winning an AEW, like the big AEW belt, would do anything for AEW specifically. You know what I mean? But for New Japan, yeah, like you give John Moxley the big belt. They're like more Westerners probably want to watch New Japan now. Maybe like, oh, that's interesting. So
I guess that's fair. I mean, like,
Will Ospreay's New Japan.
technically,
Really about it. Like,
he
I mean,
was.
he's new to AEW, but I think that's enough of being a recognizable face.
Yeah.
And
I
for
mean,
New
like, he
Japan,
technically
yeah.
was, yeah.
Last Forbidden Door, he was.
What do you feel about? I mean, I guess in terms of rankings, but again, okay. So rankings.
Everybody's on top. Everybody's the best.
Yeah. So rankings is the whole thing. I just think you should just get rid of the freaking rankings, like CM Punk said. And Will Ospreay just won that championship. Is that being defended at Forbidden Door? Because his title was basically meant to be defended at a pay-per-view like Forbidden Door. Is
champ versus champ.
We'll see. We don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess TBD because it's still a couple of weeks away. But
it might get booked the night before.
Honestly, you're right. Because like when I'm making those freaking graphics, and I'm like, there's 8 matches. Oh, there's actually 10. And then when I'm ready to publish, I ask Chris. He's like, oh yeah, there's a Thunder Rosa match. And I'm like, what do you mean there's a Thunder Rosa match? It's like the pre-show. I'm like, you know what? Fuck that shit. I'm not counting pre-show matches because I can't fit it in the goddamn graphic. There's 10 matches and that's it. But
yes, go with
that's a whole other conversation. Because honestly, you know what? I'll say this. Because right now for AEW, they used to not have a pay-per-view every month, but now they do. So you don't need to stuff your pay-per-view with 10 or 12 matches. Like that is a lot to ask for a person. I get it. You probably get your bang for your buck, but you start like 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock Eastern time, and then people are sitting up until like 1 in the fucking.
Well,
like that's all. See, exactly. You yawn, and it's 8:40. So I'm just saying, it's a lot.
It's because you're still paying for them. I mean, you're still paying $50 or whatever per pay per view. So they probably are just like, well, we got to stack this shit. If you got 5 or 6 matches and you're paying $50, I mean, I don't know. Especially in today's landscape, maybe like whenever streaming wasn't a thing. When people were still paying for pay-per-views, they could get away with it, but they're probably just trying to add the value to spend the money. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So we were initially talking about Blackpool Combat Club, and it kind of devolved into this other segment. But
Cuckold Club.
Where do you see Blackpool Combat Club going from here? Do you feel like it still exists as a entity?
Of course.
Yeah.
They never said it was gone.
Okay, so where do you see like Daniel Bryan in his current situation? Like, where does he fit in the current AEW card? I know he did the whole Team AEW thing. Is he kind of like a floater right now? Like, basically where they need him, they're gonna kind of put him in a specific.
Maybe he comes back with the Blackpool Combat Club.
Well, not only that, but he's been kind of like characterized as the, you know, like an AEW rah-rah poster boy kind of guy, like the guy behind the scenes, mentor type, like he's Mr. AEW.
Committee.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, he's
right.
a discipline committee. That should be his new faction. That'd be actually entertaining. The discipline committee.
Damn.
Kind of like oh my god, what's the in WWE that right to censor, right? That's what it was called.
Yeah.
That's what he should be. Discipline committee should be like right to censor.
Oh.
Like if there's something
Big
dirty or
ass tyrant.
nasty, he has to like go on the camera and like find people.
2 girls kissing.
Yeah.
He comes out, dudes no.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So yeah, I mean, I know Wheeler Yuta's out with a concussion. He has concussion issues, but I mean, John Moxley, you still have Danielson, you still have Castagnoli.
Monster Choli.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like for them, it's just like we're part of a group, but you don't have to necessarily be tied in as a group in name to any specific story. I guess that's fine. You know, like I guess I'm kind of conditioned to see it a certain way. But for me personally, I do like some kind of, reward, I guess. You know what I mean, for like following a specific group. Um, so
A free T-shirt.
yeah, a free. I mean, at
Toaster.
least, come on, give me a free
Signed
T-shirt,
6x4.
toaster. So that's enough of that. Let's dive into. Okay, so we're gonna talk about WWE documentaries, and we're gonna talk about WWE documentaries on Netflix, and then we'll talk about also who killed WCW, because I do want to have this upcoming month of June and a bit of July is going to be a little hectic when it comes to recording schedules because everyone's like off or somewhere. So I do want to have, I think some episodes will involve or short segments that we record will be involving Who Killed WCW. And they released a segment as of this recording, because I know that the first episode is coming out on Tuesday. They released about 20 minutes or so of the first episode of Who Killed WCW, and it is about what I expected when it came to the introduction for the documentary. You had Eric Bischoff on there. You had Kevin Nash talking about his own perception. But the thing that will differ from this documentary, like other ones produced by WWE, is that you don't have the WWE lens and machine kind of like looking at it, because you know that when you're creating a WCW documentary, it's filtered through a WWE filter. So you're not getting, I feel, a truly honest look at WCW and the true opinions of like what caused the downfall of it. And they had a bunch of more people within that documentary who were involved within production and in like the upper echelon of like corporate, TBS, Turner Broadcasting, and they had like those people on camera and offering their opinions, and that was actually really interesting. So, let's first talk about the WWE documentaries on Netflix. So we know as a brand that WWE signed a deal with Netflix. They are having Monday Night Raw every Monday starting January 2025. And everywhere else besides the United States, they basically have SmackDown, NXT, and all of those basically PLEs. That's why I wish I'd be like in the UK, because then I just need Netflix to watch everything. Like that'll
VPN.
be much easier for me. So that's basically the deal for Netflix. And yeah, so more WWE licensed shows are set to join Netflix as part of this massive deal. So speaking to JP Morgan Global Technology, Mark Shapiro, who is the TKO COO, he shared plans for a lot of ancillary shoulder programming connected to WWE. So this basically means that they'll be creating shows on Netflix that include reality shows and documentaries. So reality shows giving a behind the scenes look, they're hardly new for Netflix. I mean, they've been doing things like teaming up with Formula One racing to present, Formula One Drive to Survive. And that show gave fans an in-depth look at the sports as well as the lives of the drivers of the racetrack. So now in January, wrestling fans can expect something similar when WWE moves to Netflix. They have their own litany of reality shows. In the past, they've had Total Divas, Total Bellas, and they have current projects that they've been airing, including Ms. and Mrs. and Love in WWE with Bianca Belair and Montez Ford. So we know that WWE is going to have a bunch of documentaries. They currently also have a deal with the biography channel. So they're doing a bunch of biographies through them, through A&E. So they have a bunch of actually, I think as of this recording, they had Ricky the Dragon Steamboat on as the latest biography. So when it comes to biographies and extended programming, and I don't know how many biographies and documentaries you guys have watched. I know for WWE and wrestling related, I know I've watched a litany of wrestling documentaries. I probably can't even count how many I've seen. I know, David, we talked about the one with Bray Wyatt that they recently aired back in April. I mean, like, they just do a really good job when it comes to wrestling documentaries. The first ones that I remember when I started getting back into wrestling was the Bret Hart documentary, the Shawn Michaels documentary. Like, I was like super into that Montreal Screwjob feud thing, and like basically like they were doing um like a rehash and like a reconciliation. Like as I was getting into it, they're like, "Oh yeah, we're having Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels show up on TV and like forgiving each other." Like I was basically like getting into it. I read Bret Hart's book that was like 800 pages long,
Fuck
and yeah,
Goldberg.
yeah, that was in the book. Fuck Goldberg. That was definitely in the book. But yeah, just super. I really, the thing that I love about wrestling is also just reading about wrestlers and the lore and just the stories that they tell. You know, like that's like a big part for me as like a wrestling fan. It's just like listening to their stories, and that I really enjoy. So when it comes to documentaries, you know, we know that they're having this partnership with Netflix. What do you feel like they can do, or what do you want to see from WWE Netflix when it comes to that extra programming? Do you want to see spotlights of specific wrestlers? Do you want documentaries about specific events in history? Have you had any ideas, you know, going into this?
I would like to hear more of like productions behind like certain events. Like say for example, like a lot of like WCW, like especially like like early '90s, like Dusty setting up shows, things like that. Like I
Mhm.
like hearing like when Heyman talks about that time,
Yeah.
or even like when JR. So like I'd like to see more of like people that were like that hands on with Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah. I mean, like, I also kind of want them to dive into, because like they mentioned it before, and it wasn't. I mean, not in passing, but like it was in conversations about how they would also exchange talent from like ECW in the '90s
Yeah, they had a little. Yeah,
for WWF programming. I think that'd be like kind of an interesting thing, just kind of see like what the handshake deal was with like just having Paul, but just have Paul Heyman talk about, you know, that kind of era because
yeah.
he's just really good at storytelling and understanding. And I know that's like one specific thing, but I do want to also like dive. I want them to dive into very niche things. Like I
Yeah.
would kind of like to see like a Tommy Dreamer documentary and have him go into that deep dive of like his thought process attempting to in WrestleMania 17 like kill Paul Heyman.
Hmm,
Like I
I
hmm.
thought
think
you were gonna say like being in ECW, but
no,
so we're
no,
gonna go straight to the end.
no, yeah, yeah. So like because I feel like Netflix, and again, I guess it just depends on. I guess you know that's the other thing. The WWE filter is still there, so I don't think they would. You know what? It's kind of hard because like when I watched the Randy Orton documentary that they aired on A&E, like that was pretty honest, and all they did was they just gave like a warning ahead of time
Yeah.
about like what he was gonna say. Did you watch that documentary, David? I don't know if you, I don't know.
No, but I recently watched the Eddie Guerrero one, and I
Yeah.
didn't realize like all
Yes.
that was going on.
Right. So, like in the Randy Orton documentary, like he gets very honest about like his career, his struggles. If you guys haven't watched those are really good. You know what I'm gonna do with Who Killed WCW? I'm gonna buy it on the Shot Down Shoot podcast account, and then you guys can just like watch it as
Yeah.
the episodes roll through, because I don't have cable obviously, and it's on Vice. And I think they'll probably be like, oh, the first episode is free on YouTube, but I know like they're just gonna um just gonna have to watch it on cable. So I'm just gonna like buy the season, and then we're just gonna have everyone watch, and just like whoever's free, we're just gonna like have some kind of stream during some time of the week in June and July about it, because I think that'll be interesting, and it's something new, like something different we can use as material. But that's what I want to see more of on Netflix, is more honest, unfiltered, just like perceptions of like the wrestling business, biographies on wrestlers that is unfiltered and just honest, because I feel like that's what a lot of people really enjoy. And I feel like with Bray Wyatt, they were pretty honest when it came to like his character, growing up. Like, it's not like Triple H kind of like was mincing words. Like, he knew, he was talking about like it was difficult sometimes to work with him when it came to creative.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like there was a period in WWE where um, they had this kind of like narrative when it came to like the Monday Night Wars. Like, there was like this whole mythos that was kind of like created, and you basically just kind of had that story, and that's what they used for every documentary or whenever they had that interview or conversation. Um, and I feel like the barriers kind of lowered when it came to like the A&E biographies,
Yeah.
and again, like even their own documentaries that they publish on Peacock. So I just want to see more of that, and even like with the Netflix budget behind them, more in depth, interviews and that kind of stuff. Because that's like, for me, when it comes to wrestling now, like that's the fascinating stuff,
Yeah.
is the interviews with like former wrestlers, how you came about this specific match, the backstage politics of it, like how you felt when you were in this match. Like, that's for me very fascinating. But Chris, like, how about you when you're thinking about like Netflix documentaries, or what you'd like to see, when it comes to Netflix documentaries, like what for WWE, what would you like to see?
Behind the scenes with Vince McMahon.
I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. I bet you it will in a third party. Produced by Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Yeah, right.
And $5. What is it called?
$7.
$7. $5. Uh,
Definitely more of the real stuff, the real interviews, real feelings, where it's not like, they're just kind of playing a role, or they're not being their true honest self. They're holding back information, but just like a confession booth kind of a thing. You know what I mean?
yeah. I agree with that. And what do you feel like, when you think of like all the wrestling documentaries that you have watched, what do you feel like strikes you the most? Like, what burns in your brain when it comes to like when you're watching wrestling documentaries? Is there a specific one that kind of comes to mind for you, that you're like, I really enjoy this documentary, they should do more of that type, or they should shoot it or direct it in this specific kind of way? You know what I mean?
The Chris Benoit story. Did they ever come out with a Chris Benoit like DVD set back in the
They had
day?
a Dark Side of the Ring episode.
Well, I know that,
It was a two-parter.
but like early 2000s, did they have like a Chris Benoit like DVD?
I'm sure they must have had some kind of like
Yeah, we gotta find it.
documentary. But I feel like some of that stuff is like pretty sanitized, like early
Yeah.
mid 2000s. It's just like very.
The self-destruction of the Ultimate Warrior.
I mean, yeah, there's that one too. That wasn't as filtered, but
Hit
that also
piece.
had an agenda.
Yeah, this guy's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
I mean,
The Chris Benoit story.
that would be interesting. That'd be an interesting thing to dive deep more into.
Do you think
but
WWE and Netflix what do you feel like WWE would be like, yes, let's do a Chris Benoit documentary?
probably not.
I think they're gonna just not talk about him.
It's like Vince and Benoit. I feel like they're just gonna be like, let's just not talk about it.
But you never know, because it's like Netflix, I feel, is just a completely different like thing than like a TV network. You know what I mean? I feel like through a TV network, there's more loopholes to deal with as far as like censorship and things like that versus like Netflix, where I feel like it's more, I don't want to say the Wild West because it's not like they're putting porn or some shit on there, but like,
You
you
can show
know,
titties, I guess, and dick.
but they could be more, crass or
That's
exclusively.
true, but I think that it just boils down to what does WWE want to show. Because like they're in partner with Netflix. I don't think Netflix has the ability to just do it without their permission. I mean, I don't know. I'm not like reading the contract or whatever, so I don't know the specifics. But I would assume that signing this deal is just kind of like a partnership, not like we're gonna make documentaries that you might necessarily like about your company that puts you in a bad light necessarily. Because I feel like wrestler documentaries, it's so focused about the individual, it doesn't necessarily reflect on WWE because it's like, oh, this is about Randy Orton and Randy Orton's issues. It isn't like, if you did a Vince McMahon documentary, that's WWE because he was in charge, of WWE for up until 2022 or so, you know. So I feel like that's a different needle to thread, you know. With Chris Benoit, I mean, I feel like that might be more realistic than a Vince McMahon documentary. And I know that they had a Vince McMahon documentary on Netflix that they were going to do, but it seems like maybe they shelved it, or maybe they're going to reframe it, or what, like after their deal with WWE.
I mean,
Because
I could see them kind of hijacking the Dark Side of the Ring
Yeah.
idea concept and then kind of like making it their own thing. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
Okay,
Like
about
it'll
WWE
essentially,
things.
yeah, it'll be so they can kind of just take that shit back for themselves, but just like, they can talk about those darker stories and murders, and it could be How to Catch a Killer or whatever the fuck that show is called.
yeah.
You know?
I definitely see more reality-based shows like the Montez Ford and Bianca show. They'll definitely have more of that kind of stuff, but I would like to see more honest, just more honest, like John Cena related like documentaries and stuff. Like
Ugh.
the A and E biographies, I feel like are pretty honest
Yeah.
when it comes to, because I feel, you know what it is. I feel like it's because it's on A&E. It's not like brought to you by WWE. There's this kind of this exception or this feeling of like, well, it's on A&E. It's an A&E documentary, so you don't necessarily see the WWE brand, so they're a little more cool with it. And again, I feel like with Triple H, I think he's more lenient to talk when it comes to talking about stories. I
Hmm.
think he's willing to be more honest in these kinds of scenarios. Because I feel like he's got to be signing off on these kinds of things when it comes to content, if he's a chief content officer. Um, but yeah, I'm really interested. I know like they've done to death the Montreal screw job. I don't think they want. I don't think I'd like to see that again. Maybe
They should
if they
let Edge
were
and Matt Hardy talk.
who Matt
Edge and Matt
Hardy.
Hardy.
Edge and Matt Hart. Yeah, you know
When
what?
they had
Honestly,
their
like
program.
what I would like to see, yeah, like some kind of like round table when it comes to like those kind of like specific
Table for
um
three on some
scenarios.
bullshit.
Yeah, table for three-way. No, but like Matt Hardy and Edge, and just kind of like talking about it, like just in a room, like facing each other. Same thing with like Bret
Gloves.
Hart and
No,
Shawn
I'm just kidding.
Michaels.
There's like Dave
With gloves.
Mustaine and Lars Ulrich in that some kind of monster documentary, just heart to heart.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, what you just mentioned, that yes, that's what I would like to see, like Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart. Just like I know they've done Montreal Screwjob to death. I know that. I understand that. But I feel like if they had to go back into that well one more time, they could do, like that, in that kind of documentary is just like a raw, I'm in a chair, you're in a fold up chair, and we're just talking about it and just having a conversation about it. And just like a raw conversation. Don't edit it, don't clip it out. I just want to see like actual reactions from those two guys. So
Forced
if you
hug.
can do documentaries like that, like sign me up, bitch. Like I'm gonna be. I mean, you're gonna have Raw, obviously, so I'll be, subscribed. But like you'll keep me if you have these kind of shows too, because I eat up all those WWE documentaries, like all the biographies, the treasures, like the most wanted treasures and stuff. Like I love
Yeah.
watching that kind of stuff.
More stuff like that.
Cardona. I've been
Yeah,
watching Cardona hunt down figures and shit.
Yes, because like honestly, what you mentioned, like the treasures thing. Um, I just really like just like the memorabilia stuff, and like oh, this specific jacket from 1997 SummerSlam that this specific fan has, and then the wrestler who had that goes in and like talks with it. I don't even give a shit if it's staged. Like it just super fascinating because it is the actual jacket, and they do have memories about it. And I don't know, I just really enjoy that kind of stuff. So if they could do more of that, I'd be a fan. So if they're doing like the A&E stuff, just bring it to Netflix and I'll watch that. Do more of that stuff. But let's dive into Who Killed WCW, because this is going to be a show, and I don't know when we're going to air this, but the first episode is going to air on June 4th, on a Tuesday. And this entire documentary is produced by Dwayne The Rock Johnson and his team.
Who Killed
And-
WCW.
And it's talking about who killed WCW in an unfiltered, non WWE perspective. I watched Busted Open, and they had Brian Gewirtz, who was the head writer in WWE for a while, and he was also the main writer for The Rock's material. He's also part of $7 Entertainment, I believe that's what it's called, not $5. And he was involved in the current documentary that is going to be aired along with The Rock. And honestly, I know, and I've seen every conversation and every wrestling podcast talk about how this conversation has been done to death, that there is nothing else new to dig up. But you know what? There is, because they have not interviewed like the specific CEOs and people who were in charge of Turner, and like those executives and people. Like they have people involved within like the more administrative part. It's not just like the wrestlers and Eric Bischoff and like the immediate people within that show. It's like people who are like, I don't like wrestling, and this is why I didn't want it to show up, on our channel. This is why we didn't think it was viable. And then we're asking people, because there was another thing like, oh yeah, it's obvious who killed WCW. And then this is what Brian Gewirtz was saying, like, oh yeah, everyone always says like we all know who killed WCW. And then he was saying like when he interviewed these 5 or 6 different people in the initial episode, everyone gave a different response, because no one knows who killed WCW, because everyone has a different idea or concept about who killed WCW. So this is what's the fascinating thing for me when it comes to this specific documentary. But what are you guys looking forward to? I don't know how many episodes this is going to be, but what do you hope to see from this specific documentary of Who Killed WCW? What do you hope to learn, or what do you hope they talk about more when it comes to the life of this brand that died in 2001?
I want to hear mainly Bischoff, Russo, and then like Nash just like rip apart the network. Because I want to see like how much the network like
Sting.
Yeah.
I'm
Sting's
actually
gonna be
curious
on
if they interviewed Sting. I don't know if they interviewed Borden.
I mean, how do you not? Like, it's fucking
I just showed
WCW.
up to work.
Yeah.
I guess.
I mean, I feel like they wouldn't have like stopped at like, oh yeah, only this guy and this guy, because I they were definitely interviewing, like, again, like I said, like administrative people, like super specific people, and like
Yeah.
board members, and executive suites, like managers and CEOs and that kind of stuff. And they also have like people like Kevin Nash, and I mean like people who are still alive, because like a lot of people are dead. So oh, I have Diamond Dallas Page in there. They had Eric Bischoff in the initial episode, Kevin Nash, and they didn't show Sting, but I feel like that you would think that'd be a person who would want to be interviewed, unless he didn't want to be a part of it. Um,
It's probably
Trying to
all
think
those
of
executives that Bischoff was introduced to, like whenever they got bought out or whatever, or they came in the late 90s, like 98, 99 era, like those
Yeah.
people, because they're the ones who more than likely shifted what WCW was supposed to look like.
yeah,
Oh, with the merge. That was what, AOL merger?
Yeah,
AOL,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, Hulk Hogan, I'm pretty sure, is in the documentary.
It ain't his fault.
Yeah, well, apparently not. I mean, like, Kevin Nash was kind of honest when they were asking about, like, in the first, like, I think it was the first 20 minutes of this documentary that they showed on YouTube. You guys can see on YouTube. Kevin Nash said, "Thanks for the paycheck." for like when he thought of WCW, what would he say? He said, "Thanks for the paycheck." And there was, so yeah, in the initial like first 20 minutes, they were talking about like kind of like why Turner Broadcasting were, I don't remember if it was like just part of a conglomerate, but like why they didn't like wrestling, and why they didn't feel like it fit the brand. And most of the people within that executive suite, that top level, didn't like wrestling, besides Ted Turner and maybe one or two other people. So
Yeah.
for Ted, like, he was a big wrestling fan. I mean, he created this channel, like Turner Broadcasting in Georgia. It was a local channel, and then it became this really big thing. And like, if for him, he felt like, this was also kind of like, he did like wrestling, but he was also like, I'm gonna like wrestling. I'm gonna keep liking wrestling, and basically fuck you to everybody else. And that was kind of like his way of like maintaining that WCW brand. And yeah, like that definitely felt like he was a big part of why WCW failed, because once he left, and then you had all these other people coming in and offering their own opinions, and people, they were being sold off to these other companies when they had that whole Time Warner or whatever merger. Yeah, that's when shit hit the wall. So yeah, very, very interesting. I am super excited to see, this upcoming series. And I feel like when we get to our next recording, whenever that might be, it might be like 2 or 3 episodes in, we'll try to get some kind of reaction recording this month after this podcast. Because I mean, again, I just feel like it's fascinating. I know certain things have been done to death. WCW, Monday Night Wars, and Montreal Screwjob and all that kind of stuff. But when we hear like the new insights and things, I think that'll be interesting to kind of pick apart and talk about. And that's what I want to do in our next episode. Yeah. So that is a wrap for this episode of the Chi-Town Shoot podcast. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, rate us, and leave your feedback. Tune in next time for more wrestling madness. Until then, keep marking out.